Hello everybody, my name is Necroxis. Time for our second Shadowlands animation. This is Shadowlands Afterlives Maldraxxus, and this one is presumably about Draka. As I said last week, not to belabor the point too much, but I find Draka incredibly boring. So I'm really not sure how they're going to sell me on this animation. I was talking about this on my Twitter last night, but I would have rather they put in any other... If they had to have a female orc, they could have put in, like, Warlord Zayla. They could have put in, like, Azuka Blade Fury from Warlords. They could have put in someone who disappeared and we didn't know their fate, like Shokia from Mr. Pandaria and Warlords. Or, if they had to have this be an orc warrior, they could have put who it should have been this whole time, and that's Dranosh Sarfang. I don't think... Especially considering the fact that Maldraxxus, more than the other zones, is more of an ensemble zone in terms of the returning characters. There's not just like Uther, and it's not just about Uther, or it's not just about Kel'thuzad, or it's not just about Ysera. It's about like Draka and Vash and Alexandros Mograine. So I really think thematically, with how Battle for Azeroth ended, and with the fact that Sylvanas is still the villain, that this should have been Sarfang's son. And again, because it's a ensemble zone, it's not like he would have been like a major story player, but he would have been the focus out of all the returning players, or the returning characters. And just based on how he died, and who his father was, and how his father died, and the fact that when Frostmourne was destroyed, all the souls were freed, I would have much rather preferred that he be the one here in Maldraxxus. But I don't know what's going to happen yet, but I'll just say that I don't begrudge you if you like Draka. That wasn't my point last episode. It was more that I don't know why she deserves to have a starring role in an animation when there's so many other characters who need it more than her. And it's okay that Draka is just a nobody character whose child was super important and then she died. And I think I publicly asked people on Twitter and on my video, like, what possibly is there to like about her? Like, what is she? Could you name one thing she's done? And I think people were like, oh, in Lord of the Clans, I think is where this happens. She proved that she could be a warrior at the festival, and it was like, I guess technically you're right, but the fact that you had to dig so deep for that one thing that I went. For those who are curious, I went and asked some of my other friends who are up on the lore, Howie was one of them, like, do you remember this even happening? And they were like, no. So, I don't know. But this is not the shit on the Draka show. So let's start the animation. I don't dislike her, by the way. I just think she's boring. And I think a lot of characters are boring, and they don't deserve a starring role. But let's see if they can change my mind. I doubt it, but let's see. So... let's begin this Draka animation in 3, 2, 1. Actually, it's Maldraxxus. It's Afterlives Maldraxxus. So here we go. In 3, 2, 1, now.
In life, I was Draka of the Frostwolf clan. A warrior who gave everything to protect what mattered most.
And that was her whole character.
Not done fighting. Maldraxxus, where the armies of the five houses once stood side by side to protect the realm of death. It was here I served the House of Eyes. A strange fit for a warrior's soul.
Again.
Their ways were not mine.
Faster.
Oh, so she became like a rogue. That's interesting.
Again.
Eventually, this life after life began to feel right.
We have a title. The Afterlife.
The House of Plagues lies in ruin. ruins. 1/5 of Maldraxxus wiped out.
It's hard to believe they could be so careless.
Perhaps they weren't. No matter what happens now, Maldraxxus must stay true to its purpose. For if we fail in our duty, the Shadowlands will fall. I believe the House of the Chosen still stands with us, and I trust you to deliver this to Margrave Crexus.
Ah, Crexus.
Now, go. And Draka, be watchful.
The Scourge architecture like that shit will never not be cool.
My brothers, I am on urgent business. My lord!
I was gonna say her
Hurry! There could be survivors!
her house also fell. I like the part that I like the rogue aspect that she like became a rogue and she used to be a warrior. She learned how to make an alt.
So, these are the traitors you spoke of.
I would not let such Urgura prevent me from delivering my lord's final message.
Ordeals such as this either break the sword or strengthen it. I offer the key to saving Maldraxxus.
I am sorry, Margrave. He gave me no key.
An unyielding warrior with the skills of a master spy. A key to many things. Come, our enemies will strike openly soon. We must prepare.
She was the key.
I am Draka, once of the Frost Wolf clan, now Baroness of the House of the Chosen, and most of all, a protector of Maldraxxus.
Where's Mograine? Where's Vosh? Alright. I'm not going to say I went into this expecting it not to be good. Because I didn't. Because I genuinely like these animations. Even the ones that I don't like the Khadgar one from Legion. And if you guys remember when you were watching me around then, I got a lot of shit for saying the Khadgar one was boring and not interesting. But I still thought the animation and the story they were trying to tell had a inkling of fascination to me. This was boring, I think. Again, it's because Draka is a nobody. You could have replaced her with like 1,000 other characters, and the storyline would have worked exactly the same. I think my point is supported by the fact that the animation isn't about her past life. Like, they referenced it for 5 seconds? It's because she has no interesting backstory. And instead they chose to tell the story of Maldraxxus, which could be okay, and I'd be fine with, because when you show up to Shadowlands, there will be some slight spoilers for Shadowlands dialogue and content coming up here, so if you don't want to hear that, then you feel free to close the video now. But when you begin Shadowlands, the two houses that you see have already fallen. The House of Eyes and the House of the other one, the House of Plagues, I think. And you eventually learn that behind the fall of those two houses is Kel'thuzad. And Kel'thuzad ends up playing a major role for the Necrolords, the Kyrians, and the Venthyr. And again, like I said last time, the Night Fae are kind of their own thing that seemed very out of place. But they could connect it after the fact with the Drust, so hopefully they'll do that. Because I am convinced that 9.1 will be the Kel'Thuzad raid. Because they set him up to be the big bad villain of 9.0, and he doesn't die. So, that's my opinion, man. But they could have replaced Draka with any other character here. They could have replaced her with any of the other 3 female characters they've noticed. I mentioned. They could have replaced her with Sarfang's son, which again would have made so much more sense, and it would further. So if this animation wasn't changed at all, but it was Sarfang's son, it would be a lot better from the sheer implication of the storyline that eventually is in Shadowlands, because Sarfang's son was an amazing warrior. So it would make way more sense that he would be delivered to Crexus and be like, this is the key to help us save Maldraxxus, because the person trying to destroy Maldraxxus is Kel'thuzad, who is aligned with the jailer, who is aligned with Sylvanas, who literally killed Sarfang's dad. Like, there would be so much more emotional depth to that story if you had that personal connection. And that's why you heard me say last episode where I was like, I really wasn't interested in Bastion and the Kyrians, but goddamn, after that Uther animation, I was like, my interest like jumped like 1,000 points. It's because there was that personal connection for me as a lore fan to the story. I didn't have that here. They didn't even show like Mograine or Vash. They showed boring ass Draka and tried to carry the animation story, tried to carry entirely on the Maldraxxus storyline, but by the nature of it coming out before the game, and by the nature of them not spoiling anything, obviously, because why would you spoil shit in the game before the game comes out? I'm not complaining about that. I'm saying because they couldn't, it felt very hollow. And again, it's nothing against the voice acting, nothing against the art itself, which is all amazing. It's just, I don't know why. I think they were incredibly hampered by the fact that they chose Draka over any other character here, because I mean, I'm just thinking in my head as I'm thinking more about Sarfang. Like, they could have had like a whole little mini section where Sarfang is like, "Fuck, dude, I got killed by the Lich King, and my last moments were dying to the Scourge, and now I'm in the Scourge zone. Like, holy shit, that's crazy." And they could have had more dialogue between the one dude who's the leader of the house that died, and been like, well, we're not really the Scourge, but blah, 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 blah. Like, they could have done such a better job setting up why Maldraxxus is cool, because I think Maldraxxus is super fucking cool, but I don't think they did that here. They tried to focus it on, Draka's the key to save, but Draka's just a random warrior. She's just a random orc warrior, who, I guess, respect into a rogue, a subtlety rogue. So it's just not like she's super important for some reason. And nothing in the game suggests that she's super important to the storyline. She's just another character in an ensemble of characters. Vash is also a baroness. I mean, Draka brought up that she's a baroness. So, like, it's not like she's suddenly important because there's another person that has her exact title. And it's, I don't know, man. I didn't think it was nearly as good as the first one. I would give Uther probably like a 9 or a 9.5 out of 10. This was like a struggling 5 for me. And again, solely because of the story. It's not because of the animation or because of the voice acting. It's just, there was no emotional connection to me as a fan of the story. Like, you don't get to be like, here's Thrall's mom, and she's important because she's Thrall's mom. No, Thrall is important, but Thrall's mom is not important. And that was kind of, not that that was the point of her death, but it was, they've had 20 years to make her important, and the most that they could do is, she proved herself at some celebration that she's not like the other girls, she could fight. And it's like, wow, you had 20 years, and now you're making her like a starring role, one of the 4 coveted, super important returning character roles of the expansion, and you're giving it to her. I was saying on Twitter, imagine the outrage if they would have replaced Draka, a Horde-aligned character, with an Alliance-aligned character like Amber Kiernan. Do half of you who are even watching this video know who Amber Kiernan is? I've talked about her several times, and I really love her. And if she did happen to come back and was as big a role as Draka, I'd be like, oh, that's awesome. But I'd also be saying, she's not big enough of a character to deserve this role, and that's how I feel about Draka. Amber Kiernan was a sniper with SI7, and she's in the Cataclysm Defias Westfall storyline. She also shows back up in Miss Pandaria, in the Jade Forest storyline. You might remember if you play the Alliance, she's that quest where you are looking down a sniper scope and killing a bunch of Hosen. That's Amber doing it. And then she dies in Legion off screen, which really disappointed me when I found out about it. But that's the level of importance of a character she is, and that's the level of importance of a character Draka is. And, like, imagine the outrage if they gave an entire zone like this to Amber Kiernan, or, like, Anduin's mom. Like, and I would love for Anduin's mom and Amber to be in Shadowlands, but neither of them deserve to have, like, a zone's feature-length expose as a character. Like, it's just crazy to me. So this should have been about, if you didn't want to change any of the characters up, this should have been about Vash, or this should have been about Mograine. Mograine would have been way more interesting, because he also has that Scourge connection, and they bring that fact up in the Maldraxxus questing with Mograine. Or, if they were going to make this just about Maldraxxus, it should have been all three of those characters, or none of those characters, or even Kel'Thuzad it could have been about. Because there's nothing to say they couldn't make it about villains, because they did that last expansion. So, I don't know. I was really disappointed with it. There were just so many other ways they could have gone about it. But to be fair to the animation team that made this, the problem is not with them. It's with Blizzard choosing to brute force, ham fist in an orc related to Thrall again into another expansion, into a role that they didn't deserve and should not have been in. So that's it. I'm really looking forward to next week with the Night Fae, because I'm curious if the featured character is actually who they are. Because I think the featured character is supposed to be a fawn, which is like those dryad looking guys. But I would personally like it a lot more if it was also about Theranax, the Night Warrior, and his husband. Like, I would love to see their opinion on things, especially if Ysera, who I feel like at this point has overtaken Cenarius as, like, the character that's returning. Because remember when they first announced Shadowland, they were like, and Cenarius went here. But Cenarius isn't in Ardenweald, unless I have really missed something. It's Ysera, who is, like, a major character of Ardenweald. So I would love if it was, like, Ysera, or if it was Theranax. We could see more of the Night Warrior, because Blizzard is locking the Tyrande stuff and the Night Warrior stuff behind the Night Fae. So sorry if you're an Alliance fan that's really passionate about that storyline. You have to be the Night Fae or you won't see it, because their new strategy now is, let's cut every storyline up into fourths and force you to make 4 characters, which I think is a terrible idea. And they clearly have done it on purpose, because none of the Covenant campaigns isolated on their own are good enough as a standalone story. But Maldraxxus, Bastion, and Revendreth together tell a very good story. So don't get me wrong, I'm not criticizing it. I love the story when you combine all 3 of them together interweavingly. But on their own, they're incomplete, and they are not great. So I'm not a fan of Blizzard being like, haha, guess what? Now we're going to lock the story behind 4 different characters you have to make. Aren't you ready for it? Because we artificially locked your Covenant choice, so you have to make 4 characters. I'm positive that all of those things were discussed, and they did that exactly on purpose. So we'll see. But I'm super excited for the Night Fae one. This one was a 5 out of 10 at best. Last one was far, far, far better. And it's not because I like Arthas. Like, I've repeatedly talked about how he's one of my least favorite characters. But just because how well done it was, how connected to the overall plot of the expansion it was, how emotionally connected... Sorry, that wasn't me getting emotional. I literally had something stuck in my throat. How emotionally connective it was to me as a lore fan. And this one had none of that. So hopefully the next one does. And I feel like the last one with Revendreth definitely will, because I feel like we're going to see Garrosh get killed again. Because that definitely was Garrosh chained up. But he's not in Revendreth. So I'm kind of wondering, a theme of Revendreth is, after your anima has been extracted, because Reverend Dreth is super corrupted right now, because Denathrius, spoilers, is a villain. He then throws people into this area where, like, the light, I don't know if it's like the sunlight itself or like the actual light as like a cosmic force is in this one area, and they throw their prisoners there to die. And because Garrosh is not in Shadowlands anywhere to my knowledge, I think we're going to see Garrosh get his anima forcibly extracted and then killed again, which is no offense to people who really like him, but it's going to be really funny seeing them be mad about it. So, anyway, that's my thoughts about Afterlives Maldraxxus. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. I'm sure all the Draka fans will be real mad at my rant about her, but I can't change the way I feel. So until then, thanks for watching, everyone. Stay awesome. And yeah, farewell.